What would you like to see change in your life? And what is the biggest obstacle that you're facing now? I run a 5-week program at the Inner Knowing School for serious individuals who are ready to take the next step in their personal and professional lives. I will personally be coaching a small group of individuals, a number of practical tools and frameworks for creating an intuition practice and for self mastery. You can find more at theinnerknowingschool.com. I have a master's certification in intuition medicine, and I've condensed 10 plus years of experience and research navigating how to harness your energy and intuition in an easy to access live curated course. Now, as someone who's helped countless creatives, entrepreneurs, and many who are just plain stuck, open doors of possibility they never thought existed, I've seen this strategy transform people's inner states and external reality. And the best part is that you'll skyrocket your output and unlock your creative genius. I'll work with you weekly live to overcome your limiting beliefs and show you how to manage your energy instead of your time. I'll teach you how to create clarity, processes, develop your intuition based on some of the top tools and frameworks that I've developed. And you'll get access to guided meditations and visualizations not available anywhere else. This method is so effective that even if you don't have that much time, or if you think that you might not be ready, this will work for you. You can check out the link in the show notes to join the waiting list, and you can check out what past clients had to say about the program. Wishing you all many blessings ahead. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Blood Moon Box, a monthly subscription box service for period pads and tampons to help support all humans who have a cycle for that time of the month, and no need to run to a store to mix and match period supplies that don't cater to the entire ebbs and flows of your cycle. There are 2 box options based on your cycle, light and medium, and then heavy. And in addition to the period products, you'll also receive PMS herbal teas, a candle, and some other items for your time of the month. You can reserve a box by navigating to bloodmoonbox.com. And bloodmoonbox.com is on a mission to destigmatize the idea of period blood. At Blood Moon Box, they believe that it is the time to honor the enchanting magic within every person who has a cycle. So join us in embracing the magic of your cycle with Blood Moon Box. Hi, my name is Yasmin Turehi, and this is Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts in wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Today's episode is about awakening to our womb and biomancy with Dr. Azra Bertrand, who is an award-winning author, physician, healer, and mystic, and the founder of Biomancy University, a visionary new model of biomagical education, which we're going to get into in the show. He also received his medical doctorate from Duke University and holds a degree in biochemistry. Dr. Bertrand conducted neuroendocrinology research at the National Institutes of Health in mother-child bonding and attachment before completing his residency in family medicine through the University of California in San Francisco. And he is currently the director of Biomancy University. And so we're going to talk about that on the show. So welcome to the show, Azra.
Thank you, Yasmin. I'm really happy to be here.
Likewise. So to kick it off, Azra, what is biomancy? I think for many people listening, this is probably a new term.
Yeah, sure. So biomancy is really about earth-connected awakening. So the word itself is a combination of bio or life, biology, and mancy, which means magic or oracular or just magical. And so our body and the natural world are full of magic, and it's very real magic. So this is not fantasy out there stuff. This is just how our bodies and the world works. And I mean, my background is in healing. I'm a medical doctor. I did research at the National Institutes of Health, and no one was teaching me about the spirit in our bodies, the magic in our bodies. And so I founded Biomancy University to really teach this a groundbreaking new model of education where it's all about the arts and science of how we really work. A more full picture.
So let's get into exactly what biomancy is and why it's so important to kind of our overall health and well-being, why you decided to create a university around it. Let's kind of explore the major themes.
Yeah, sure. So my life path thus far has been all about healing. So studying medicine, studying healing. I from the beginning in medical school, I knew that what I was going to be learning there was going to be an incomplete picture. So I came in with that awareness, and it's like on the first day of medical school, I I was reading books about alternative healing. I was Andrew Wild's books at that time, and it just it went out from there. And what I learned is that, of course, our healing, our health, our well-being is completely entangled or interconnected with the natural world, with the health of the planet, with the forests, with the ecosystems. There's no separation. And of course, it's completely entangled with our emotions and our spirit and our magic. And I treated as a clinical doctor 30,000 patients, over 15, 20 years. And then after that, I expanded my vision really of what healing was, and understanding that we are really, the biggest crisis that we're facing on this earth as humans is a crisis in our perception, and not being able to hear the hidden languages of nature and the subtle languages of nature. So like a person can be a horse whisperer and understand the nonverbal communication of a horse or any animal, we can begin to be an earth whisperer, a plant whisperer. And as we do this, and as we deepen our interconnection with the natural world, then everything becomes more alive in our bodies. And it has really practical applications in the world of healing and somatic healing, and in psychology, and in regulating our nervous system. So this is, it's a new vision and a philosophy that's actually an old vision, an ancient vision that would be familiar to many indigenous cultures and elder cultures. Um, but it's really, it's really about taking these old wisdoms and old truths and merging them with science, and merging them with the modern healing movements, and really taking our next evolutionary leap. And so, the very short answer after all that is, I got into this because it is a more effective and more powerful and more beautiful way of healing from my perspective.
So let's dig into some of the maybe practical applications of biomancy, especially for folks, living in the West. I love that, you kind of talk about this aliveness that is something that I think most humans living in the Western world, especially ones who are maybe working in the corporate world or working at a desk, are sort of detached from the natural world or from our earth, right? Many of us hardly spend any time outside anymore in the Western world, I'd say. And I'm generalizing, of course. I know that that's more, maybe more of a generalization. But what can people do, maybe starting today, for folks who are listening? What can they do to sort of integrate that connection with nature, with the seasons, with the sort of movement of the cosmos? What would you say to them?
Sure, right. I frame this as, how do we ancestralize our biology while living in a modern world, right? And so this is this is the framework, and to just take this big picture to understand what we're talking about is that, of course, our biology, our bodies have evolved over hundreds of millions of years in harmony and in primary relationship to sunlight and to the geomagnetic field, the Earth's magnetic fields, and the natural electromagnetic frequencies of the Earth. And so any conception of healing without being in touch with this is going to be limited or incomplete at best. And a really practical fact that most people don't understand is that sunlight impacts something like 80 to 90% of our gene expression. So 80 to 90% of our genes are impacted and affected by sunlight. Versus if we're talking about exercise or nutrition, which are really important and which most people focus on when they think about how they're going to get healthy, that's impacting 20, 25% of our genetic expression. So it's just a relative contribution of being out in natural light, and you begin to get a sense of it. And so practically, if you just have a few minutes, 5 minutes, and how you're going to get out there and connect and start opening your biology to work in new ways, is to get out there if you can and however you can, just to put your bare feet on the earth, right? Obviously, if it's winter, it's going to be a different situation, right? But if you can, get out there and put your bare feet on the earth. And what you're doing when you're doing that, and also opening your heart to the earth, your sense of connection, relational connection at the same time, right? It's not just some inert object that we're kind of taking something from, but this is a living being. Earth is a superorganism, and we're a cell in her body, right? We're a part of Earth. And as we're doing that, we are all of a sudden receiving her electrons that are coming up into our bodies, which are typically deficient of electrons. When that happens, inflammation is reduced. Our body tends to work better. All of our cell-to-cell communications happen much more gracefully, and our body just breathes this big sigh of relief. And that's just a very simple practice. And so it's earthing, it's grounding, it's happening at a biochemical level, it's happening at a bioelectromagnetic level, because our bodies, we are quantum electromagnetic beings. And so that's a very simple practice, but has a profound capacity to clear our minds, to help begin to regulate our nervous systems or calm our nervous systems, to center and focus ourselves. So that's a very, very simple practice that has a powerful result.
And how much time do we need to connect to the earth, or how much time do you kind of see, from your practice or your perspective? What's sort of like the cutoff time for people?
Right. What's the bare minimum?
What's the bare minimum?
Yeah, right. So, for if you're listening to this podcast, right, you are probably a nature lover, and you'd probably love to spend so much time at the beach, in the woods, maybe on a mountaintop, maybe um, just in a grassy meadow, relaxing. But of course, we're living in a modern world, and folks listening here are gonna at least have one foot, if not both feet, really, in that modern world. We're working. I have a 3-year-old daughter. She is a fireball, and from 6 a.m. until 8 or 9 p.m., it's a wild, whirlwind of activity. I'm doing I'm communicating, I'm connecting, I'm getting online and doing work after she goes to sleep, and at the same time, right, I and many other people, we need to keep our biology healthy, our circadian rhythms healthy. And so there are tips and tricks to this. What I do is every day I go out for 5 minutes in the morning, as early as I can around sunrise, as the light starts to come in and change. And I try to do the same thing as the sun is beginning to set, and certainly before I go to sleep at night. So whether you're in a beautiful, natural, rural area, or in a big city, you can get out and look at the night sky. You can find a little place, a little park, a little, some place to connect, at least in the morning. And so that's what I say to folks: do what you can. And then obviously, the more you can get in this rhythm, the deeper the biological effects. But it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much to start a healing cascade and a positive cascade. And the research shows, for example, that if someone's in a hospital recovering from some kind of an injury or a surgery or medical illness, if there is even simply a photo, a picture of nature in the room, it improves recovery time. It speeds recovery time. Even better if there's a window looking out onto nature. And it's the same if there's a house plant in your room, a small plant in your room. These things make a scientifically validated difference in many aspects of your health.
Wow. I love that so much. And amen to the houseplants. I really do feel how differently it feels to be in a room when there's something living out from nature
Yeah.
In our homes. Okay, so put your bare feet in the earth, spend as much time as you can in the sun, maybe in increments throughout the day, wake up at sunrise. So you also spoke about the geomagnetic field of the earth. Can you explain what this means and why we should be tracking this?
Yeah, sure. Right. This is one of the most overlooked and fundamental pieces of health and life on this planet. And again, it's just take a step back. We'll take a step back and give a little context to this. What makes life possible on this planet? How is the Earth, say, different from Mars? And a lot of people will say, "Oh, there's water on this planet. There's no water on Mars." Right? But why is that? Why is there water on Earth, not much water on Mars? Well, it's because we have this magnetic field that emanates out from the core of our Earth, from the core of our planet, that that forms this incredible shield around our planet and protects us from cosmic radiation and solar winds. Without that magnetic shield, Earth would look a lot like Mars, which has a much smaller magnetic field. So it's this magnetic field that makes life possible. And every cell in existence, so whether that's the cell of the microbiome in the soil, or the cells in your body, or the cells in the plants and animals, every cell has evolved in relationship to this magnetic field of Earth. And when that field is taken away, our cells degrade and die. And we know this, it's called being in the scientific word is being in a hypomagnetic environment. It means underneath the kind of normal natural magnetic field that we need to thrive. And when that happens, everything goes haywire. And so people may have heard of this in the context of space travel. And when astronauts go up into space or stay, especially if they stay in a space station or something like that for a period of time, their biology starts to degrade, their bones start to degrade. And in fact, everything will begin to fall apart without that magnetic field. So that's how fundamentally important it is. And practically, what does it do for us? What does it affect in our life? What difference does it make when we go out and when we're in connection with the Earth's magnetic field? Now, if you're in a building, especially buildings with steel reinforcement or steel walls or something like that, you are not exposed. You're not experiencing that magnetic field. Especially if you're out on the Earth, you are. And when you are in relationship to that magnetic field of the Earth, it begins to reshape, for example, your gut microbiome. All of the small organisms in our GI tract that allow us to digest and absorb nutrients, to eliminate waste, and beyond that, that actually allow our overall health comes from our or is really affected by our microbiome. And that microbiome is really responsive to magnetic fields, it turns out, and thrives when it's really in contact with the Earth's magnetic field, and goes haywire when when we're not in contact, or when we're in contact with more toxic man-made electromagnetic fields. So it's a big deal.
So, okay, so this is amazing. So I just want to go out and play in nature right now.
Yeah.
This conversation is just inspiring me to really feel more connected to the earth, and it's interesting because I think some people do have more access maybe to nature, but you're saying you can work with whatever environment you're in essentially, and just start with incremental kind of small shifts and then move into kind of larger shifts.
Yeah.
You also mentioned earlier that we're in this kind of crisis in perception.
Mm.
Can you
Right.
talk a little bit more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, right. Okay. So for everyone, again, everyone listening to this podcast understands that the biosphere of the earth is in trouble right now. We've already lost 50% of the species on this planet over the past few hundred years. And that is accelerating, right? And everyone knows the story. I'm not going to go into it too deeply now. Uh, However, we have to ask ourselves, right? Everyone needs to be asking ourselves for our lives and for our children and for the future of humanity. How do we get out of this? What caused it in the first place? What was the error in our thinking or in our actions? What happened? And if you if you look at, I mean, the living wisdom of intact indigenous cultures and the recorded wisdom of the elder cultures, what you see is that they directly perceived the aliveness of the natural world. So we look at a tree, and it's not just some inert thing that maybe we can use to build a building or for firewood, or oh, maybe it's even pretty, right? No, it has an intelligence, a consciousness, a wisdom. It's been on this earth. The trees have been on this earth, evolutionarily speaking, for 500 million years, whereas humans and hominids for maybe a few million. And just to understand that the trees think, they have intelligence, they recognize their kin, their offspring, they can differentiate uh, who's a direct offspring of from them and who's a neighboring tree's children. They communicate in villages, so they communicate underground via root networks and mycorrhizal networks to all the other plants and trees in a forest, sharing information, sharing nutrition, and the point is that they have memories. Trees actually have imaginations or associative memory, associative learning, which is something that is very recently discovered. And so this perspective, it's not really a perspective, it's a direct perception of the living, pulsing vitality of the world as something that everyone used to perceive and has been lost, right? And this is what I mean by eco magic and biomagic: is the world is alive, and not just as a metaphor, right? There's consciousness in all things. And from a Western tradition, this goes back to Plato and some of the early philosophies that underpinned Western civilization. One of Plato's quotes, I'm going to paraphrase, is that the world is a living being that has a soul. It's called the anima mundi, or the world's soul. And we are a part of that. We are participating in that world's soul. And so when I say there's a crisis of perception, is that most modern people have lost that direct perception with our senses and with our extrasensory perception that was common to all of the elder cultures. And we need to be asking ourselves, one of the most important questions is, how do we get back to that? Because when we can feel directly or perceive directly this aliveness and this relational connection to the natural world around us, we're going to love it so deeply. We're going to feel how it's a part of us and how it's our kin. It's part of our our family. And when we come into that direct love and devotional connection, we cannot help but to reshape our world and reshape the way we live in it. And this is what's going to see us through, because despite despite the crisis that is here and that is only going to get worse, I am extremely optimistic that we are going to find a way through as a humanity, and it's going to be through these kind of arts and sciences of earth magic and body magic.
So yeah, wow. I'm feeling so inspired by this conversation. Just this, the remembering really of this connection that we've always had, but we sort of are not aware of in our kind of day to day life. It does feel like that it creates a relationship with the earth as opposed to feeling that one just lives on it. That it's actually we're in this kind of co-creative space together. So Azra, I want to talk a little bit more about biomancy and perhaps maybe ground the concepts of biomancy and how it's perhaps maybe healed people or healed systems. Perhaps you can share a story or two of some of the work you've done with biomancy as it relates to people or the earth.
Sure, right. Yeah. So, and this is so important, and it's really immensely practical. And so I'm going to approach this for a moment through the lens of trauma healing. And again, the context here is that I trained as a medical doctor. I my research at the National Institutes of Health was in early childhood attachment, mother-child or parent-child bonding, and the neuroendocrinology behind that, which means how our brains and hormonal systems work with good attachment and bonding and all that, and as well as training in Reichian psychotherapy and healing trauma through somatics. So this is my background. I've been doing this in this field for 30 years, and what I came to understand was one of the keys in this journey is it really is beginning to move from this state of fear or panic or trauma to a state of openness and love. This is everyone's on this journey. Everyone is on the spectrum of of this journey, and some people, of course, have severe trauma, and they're in one place, and other people less so. But it's relevant for everyone. And what I began to understand is that we're taught principally that in order to begin to heal our nervous system, which is necessary to heal from trauma or anxiety or depression or whatnot, to regulate our nervous system, and now people are understanding, it's become very popular understanding that how the mechanisms of how this work, increasing our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and relax and befriend and tend part of our nervous system, as opposed to the fight or flight part. We need to really tune up what's called our vagal nerve and or our vagus nerve, and bring our body into a state where we're more coherent, where our brain waves are more coherent, where we're in a calm place where we can interact with the world from a collaborative place, um, from a healed and healing place. And so working with our nervous system in this layer in this way is key. And understanding that one of the most powerful ways we can regulate our nervous system is coming into deeper contact with the earth. And again, I've mentioned this before, what they've shown in studies of people healing in hospitals is even a picture of nature begins to do this for us. But all the more so when we're in real contact with nature. For people who live in a city, this is your local city parks. For people who have access to bigger, more wild parks or forests, or live in a more natural setting, and there's meadows and grasses and all that. It's just getting out there among the plants and with the earth. And there is a whole incredible science behind this now that's loosely called nature bathing or forest bathing. And at this point, there are probably around 70 peer-reviewed, randomized controlled trials. That's the gold standard of clinical trials that show how being in nature, how opening to the earth improves your nervous system. It improves and helps people heal from trauma, from anxiety, from depression, and helps our hearts heal. So for people who have cardiovascular disease, it helps our hormones balance. It helps our immune system work better. It helps protect us from cancer. and on and on. And I joke that if this were available in a pill, it would be mandated, right? it would be the new mandatory thing. I'm not going to, that's a whole nother conversation. But what I'm saying, it is so powerful, just connecting with nature. And for anyone on a healing and awakening journey, being within that connection is going to start giving you the codes you need to heal, to open, to awaken, and to evolve. So it's not just healing, but it's our own personal development. And this is how we're designed. We are, by nature, it's a biological reality that we are biophilic beings. And what does that mean? Biophilia has a specific definition in the science world, which means is that we experience physiological love for the natural world and plants. When we see a beautiful plant, a tree, a flower that we love, we release oxytocin, which is the love hormone or the cuddle hormone. So this is happening all the time. We, just as we can love another human, we can love an animal. That same kind of love affair is happening with all of the natural world. And when we're in that, when we're open to that, our biochemistry is changing. We begin to open to these molecules of beauty, of bliss, of healing that are very real. This is it sounds woo on a certain level, but the woo is true. It's absolutely grounded and essential. And so whenever we're talking about a healing path or a magical path or an awakening path, we need to be thinking in bigger terms and in connecting to our ecosystems, to the earth. And so it's a huge piece.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, so I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about, well, this is all actually very interrelated. But in your book, which you co-authored, I believe co-authored, right? Creatrix of
Yes.
all. You referred to the womb as the creatrix of all, but the name of your book now is escaping me. What is it called again?
Right. Womb awakening.
Womb awakening. And then what's the rest of it? It's called
Womb awakening. It's a womb awakening, awakening to the creatrix of all life.
Okay, that's what
And
I remember the Creatrix because you spelled it with an X, which I loved.
yeah, well, it's so the actual title is Womb Awakening: Initiatory Wisdom from the Creatrix of All Life. And yeah, and the idea is that one of the first things. So my healing journey really began with by diving into what I call the world of feminine energetics and feminine healing. And I when I say that, I don't mean just man woman, but I mean feminine as in yin, and as it's viewed in the Taoist world, which are all of the qualities and aspects of life that have this mother quality or this womb quality, this holding quality. So the earth, of course, is a part of this. The earth is the womb that births all life on this planet. Women's wombs birth all human life on this planet. Every living human, of course, comes from a womb. So if we're thinking about how we're going to heal ourselves and heal the next generation, we need to really start thinking about how are we going to heal the wombs? How are we going to heal women's wombs on this planet? How are we going to help heal and connect and awaken our connection to the earth womb? And so they are all interlinked in this. I call them nested wombs of creation. And I also think about cosmology in the same way. There's, we're our galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy, which was named because of, it's the same kind of feminine metaphors. It's because it looked like a splash of milk, of the galactic mother's breast milk across the night sky. This is how the Milky Way was named. And at the center of our galaxy is a supermassive black hole, this dark, fertile, incredible black hole that has the mass of 4 million suns, that actually is what birthed all the stars and the planets in our galaxy by the gravitational waves that are emitted and the other energies that are emitted from this galactic womb. And it's not just me and my perspective that, hey, these are all womb like energies, but this is how every traditional culture on this earth viewed the world. And so, for example, the Maya people viewed the black hole at the center of our galaxy as the mother womb that birthed everything in existence long before science proved it. But in the book Womb Awakening that my wife and I wrote, we document all of the different womb connections and womb magic and womb art and history and cosmology throughout all of the cultures of the world. And and so it's a huge piece. It's a core part of it.
Why did you spend so much time kind of looking at the womb and, you call it the creatrix of all, but can you also talk about how the womb actually relates to the concepts of biomancy?
Sure, right. And so as we are, our process of birth and evolution always takes place in the context and container of womb energies. There is no such thing as separated transcendental spirituality. We all have a body, right? We have to, our spirituality has to include that. And we, as every traditional and elder culture has known, we have a first birth that comes from our biological mother's womb. It's a huge piece how that birth happens, the dynamics around that, how our mother was supported during pregnancy or even before pregnancy and conception and through it all and during the birth process, how that womb time experience, what we were exposed to in terms of nutrition and sunlight, what our mother was exposed to, that has a massive and long standing or long lasting impact on our biology through epigenetics, because it modifies our genetic expression. Our experiences in the womb profoundly modifies our genetic expression. Also, our consciousness. We find that the patterns, the emotional patterns, the energy patterns we experienced in the womb tend to repeat themselves, the good ones and the bad ones, until we heal them, until we bring our attention and consciousness to that. So there's this womb that forms us. Now, the piece that most modern people have forgotten is that there is a second birth process. It's an individuation process. And what I mean by that is very simply growing up, becoming a full adult, a real adult. And what this process means and meant to elder cultures and indigenous cultures was coming into direct relationship to not just our biological parents, but to our primordial parents of our Mother Earth and the sun. And so what you look at is there is a primary impulse to form a direct relationship to the earth and to the sun as an adult being, because this is the source of our energy, our power, our spiritual connection. And this is universal across all the elder cultures. And it has traditionally, and still is in some places, ceremonially and ritually supported. So supported with rituals and ceremonies. And whether it's in the mystery schools and mystery traditions of the West and the ancient Near East, or whether it's in indigenous traditions, there are rites of passage or mystery initiations where we are rebirthed into and through the womb of the earth. So not our biological mother, but rebirthing through the earth, where we become children or sons or daughters of the earth with a direct connection. And so biomancy is really, it's rooted in these ancestral and lineage practices that a lot of modern people have forgotten. And so it is a modern way. It's been recreated with fresh and new language and new perspectives for our modern times. But it is really all about connecting to these deep womb sources, earth womb source, and beyond, cosmic womb source.
So, and what are some like kind of exercises or practices that you can recommend for folks who want to maybe engage a little bit more deeply with their womb?
Sure, sure. Well, the womb healing and womb awakening world is so. Sarah and I we wrote this. We wrote a book about it and did a lot of work and taught a lot of people, and it's now becoming a really it's now becoming really popular. There are a lot of folks that are teaching about this, and there are many ways for women to connect to their wombs and for all people to connect to their womb energy center. And this can happen through breath, through movement, through dialogue and mapping. And so there are many ways to do that. Now, it is a how would I say it's foundational for our own body energy centers. So, for example, in the Taoist traditions, which the Taoist traditions of China, of ancient and modern China, and all of the martial arts or the alchemical movement practices. So this could be Tai Chi or Qigong, are working with this womb energy centered approach. And it's called the Hara in the Japanese tradition or Japanese language and the Shinto tradition. But there are many different schools and ways of working where we are moving from this center, thinking from this center, um, you know, and activating our center because it's a source of our power and our creative power. Now, in the work I teach now with biomancy, I teach practical ways of linking our own energy centers, our own womb energy center, and our other energy centers to the earth womb, right? So linking ourselves to the source of primordial creation and power that is at the womb of the earth. So this planetary birthing field that births all life on this planet. So it birthed us, for example. And when we begin to synchronize our bodies and our consciousness, our womb energy centers are and beyond, so not just the womb energy centers, but all of our body with this planetary birthing field, we begin to co-create together. We are co-evolving in consciousness and healing together, right? So it's not just a a spiritual thing; it's a biological thing because as we heal our body, the earth is healing because our bodies are a piece of the earth. And when we heal our consciousness, we begin to extend and project that healing and blessing energy to all of the earth around us. So we play as humans. We have this really important niche in the ecosystem and this capacity to consciously create and co-create and so really that's I'm all about helping remember that connection and inspiring that connection. And again, practically speaking, this is what I teach in Biomancy University. There are simple ways to begin. Every equinox and solstice, I offer free classes and ceremonial space to teach something that I call Sola Terra breathwork. So Sola as in sun, Terra as in earth, and it's an alchemical breath practice to begin to link the energies of the sun and the earth through our bodies. So this is classical alchemy practice and classical wisdom coming from this is a kind of practice or the energies behind it are familiar to most of the elder and traditional cultures and magical and alchemical cultures across the world. You see similar or parallel things again in Taoist tradition and ancient Egyptian tradition and Gnostic Christianity and etc.
Wow. I'm just sort of like really thinking about everything and just integrating it because it's just, I'm thinking about this link between ourselves and the womb of the earth and Gaia and just how deeply that connection, already exists. And I think how, like you said, you walk people through this reconnection, and also the equinox, the solstice, the importance of these. I would call them portals, and how whenever we want to kind of set intention or bring something, maybe birth something from the womb, these portals actually give us almost like a magical doorway. And I want to actually double click on that, why equinoxes and solstices are so important.
Yeah, great question. And this is something that has been forgotten by so many modern people. But to give a historical context for this, all across the world, for thousands of years ago, the megalithic cultures and traditional cultures built temples that honored the equinox. They were earth temples, they were stone temples. You see this all across the world that were aligned to receive the sunlight at equinox. And most of them, or many of them, are designed in a way. We'll talk about the earth mounds of, say, the what are now, you might think of it as the Celtic lands. And so, say in Ireland or in England or in northern and western Europe, there were these earth mounds that were created again 5,000 to 6,000 years ago with tunnels that burrowed deep into the center of this earth mound, that were shaped with female anatomy. They were shaped with a central canal and side channels that are lined up to fallopian tubes or ovaries that received the fertilizing sunlight at dawn of the equinox, that would shine all the way into this chamber deep into the center of this earth mound, which represented the earth's womb, and bring new life and new consciousness. So this is what our ancestors have been doing for a long time all across the world. So it must have been massively important if they were taking all that time and energy to build these incredible structures. And what we now know, so what the ancients knew and what modern science is beginning to show and prove again, is that the equinox is not just an important portal on the seasonal calendar, a symbolic time where the earth is beginning to change from say summer to fall, for example, or winter to spring, but it is a biomagical portal, just the word you said, right? It's a biomagical portal or opening where our connection to the energies of the earth and our connection to sunlight actually reset our circadian or our circannual biology. I'll talk more about that in a sec, for the next 6 months. So every single cell in our body has biological clocks. We are time beings. The study of this is called chronobiology. And all those clocks are lined up and set in sync to sunlight, natural sunlight and natural darkness. And particularly at these portals of the equinoxes, the sunlight that we receive and the darkness that we receive literally encode our biology to begin a massive shift in how we are going into the wintertime or how we're going into the summertime. And not just at a biological level, but at a consciousness level, at a spiritual level, at a metaphysical level. At the fall equinox, we began to plant the seeds that are going to be the dream visions at the winter solstice, and that are then rebirthed at the spring equinox. Right? And this story of the dying of the light and the deep winter darkness that is restorative and regenerative in our dreaming time and our vision time, and then the rebirth of the light and the earth. This is the subject. This dance, this sacred dance between the sun and the earth, is the subject of all of the different mystery school traditions and the Western mystery traditions and in the ancient Near East. It is that important. Has a real biological effect, a profound biological effect. And science is just waking up to this.
So it is very important for people then to take these kind of transitional periods very, I would say, importantly and in a sacred space. So okay, so I want to. We have so many more questions, but we're kind of coming at time. So Azra, looking back on your career, it seems like you have really gone into deep study of so many different disciplines and modalities, to come up with this philosophy. It's just fascinating. What has surprised you the most looking back?
Well, perhaps the biggest surprise is how obvious it is in a certain way, right? And to our ancestors, this would have just been bread and butter. Yeah, of course, you're outside attuning to the Earth's magnetic fields, to the sunlight, to the equinox, to the solstice, right? Of course you are. I mean, we just know that. We don't have to ask about it or remember it, right? But how this wisdom has been forgotten in this modern world with our institutionalized medical systems and our institutionalized religious systems, and how simple it is and how powerful it is. And so in my quest to really understand health, healing, radiance, personal development and evolution over the last 30 years, and all of the different studies and practice that I've undertaken, the thing that's most amazing to me is how powerful this is, how strong it is, how it takes any existing modality, whether it's a psychotherapy or whether it's a spiritual path or whether it's a somatic awakening path or um, just just how healthy we are, how long we live, how good we feel in our body. But when we can connect into this eco magic and biomagic, to the natural world this way, and to the magic in our bodies, it is so strong and so powerful. And so one of the things I did in medicine, people came to me who had really complex illnesses. They had gone to so many other doctors and couldn't get help. They didn't, they were looking for answers. And in my desire to help these folks, these patients, and myself and everyone, I began to see just how powerful, how people can become unstuck, whether it's at a magic and manifestation level, or whether it's at a health level or at a spiritual level, when they simply began to reconnect in this deep way. So it is a physical process and involves our body, but it's also a conscious connection. It's opening our heart to this kind of connection. It's opening our biofield, our living energy field, which is measurable, right? This is, again, not woo. This is a real part of our biophysics. And it's just how strong it is. And how many people I have seen have amazing health results that previously could not could not really heal until they began to work in this way.
Wow, so profound. And okay, so and where can people find you? What's like the best place to find you? I know that you also have Biomancy University. Can you tell us about your offerings and how we can get in touch?
Yeah, sure. So people can find me at my website, azrabertrand.com. I'm also on social media at Instagram and on Facebook. And I have lots of free resources on the website. I have essays and audio essays, meditations you can access. And on the, like I said before, at equinox time and solstice, I've been doing free public events. If people want to go deeper, I have Biomancy University, which is there's a 6-month immersion and a 12-month full diploma program. So there are many ways to connect. If you feel called to, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to see you join in this network of wonderful people who are exploring these paths.
Amazing. For those who want to check out the book is incredible. I almost feel like there's such a potent energy in all the words in the book. So, can you remind us again where folks can find the book and the name of the book?
Yeah, sure. So there are two books that my wife and I, Sarah and Bertrand, have co-authored, and one of them is Womb Awakening: Initiatory Wisdom from the Creatrix of All Life, and the other is Magdalene Mysteries: The Left-Hand Path of the Feminine Christ. And what they both have in common is this Earth-centric, feminine-centric cosmology and the history of where all that has come from. And so those books are out and published. I'm excited that I will have a new book, Biomancy, our future coming out hopefully in the next bit. That's the release has not yet determined on that, but there are many ways to connect at that level.
And Azra, what is your kind of final call to action for folks listening? What's kind of your main message, your main takeaway?
Yeah. So I think that the main takeaway or the practical call to action is just get out there for 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever you have, and connect with the earth, connect with the light, connect with the sun. If you can do it at sunrise, that's wonderful. If you can do it, if that's not the best time for you, that's okay. Get out there, open your heart, open your body, be in connection, be in communication, understand that we are quantum electromagnetic, super sensitive organisms living in this living world of other sentient beings that are just wanting to connect with you. So get out there and do it. Start with the small steps, the micro practices, and you'll immediately feel it, even with small steps.
Amazing. Azra, thank you so much for your time. This is so inspiring and just so appreciate the work that you're doing. And we will leave all the links in the show notes for folks to get in touch with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yasmin.
For our audience, thanks for joining and for listening. In this episode, we learned about biomancy, and you can tune into Gateways to Awakening, where we host one-on-one conversations with leading experts on wellness, well-being, and spirituality. Thanks again.